polka intro.
Hey,
We're just watching, yeah. On Home Alone, you know?
Oh, yeah? Yeah, sounds like it's working, huh? Yay! What episode is this, Kyle? Do you know?
50.
It is probably 50-something, but I think it's 40,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
42 maybe.
Oh, we had a bunch of point ones or point twos
When we had all the ones that are
in there. Packed them apart.
Pulled by YouTube censors.
Yep. Project Ion podcast episode
40-something.
40-something.
Not a whole number.
Yeah. 22nd, 3rd of December? What's the
Today's
date?
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, yesterday was solstice, man.
Yeah. Longest or shortest day of the year, right?
Longest
Still
night.
24 hours, but
Yeah. Or, yeah, shortest daylight for Northern Hemisphere. Is that
yeah, you're
accurate?
on it. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you pay attention in science. Good job.
Yeah. Thanks to guys like this.
Yeah.
Taught me all the
Yeah.
science I need to know.
I did not. Oh, boy.
We've got two special guests today. Tony. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Pretty good.
And
Glad to
Tony's
be
wife,
here.
Leah. Hi, Leah.
Hello.
Known them both for a long time. Glad to have them on the show.
Spurge says T2 in the hizzy.
Yeah.
Right. Spurge. Sorry you can't make it.
Yeah, shout out to Spurge.
Yeah, I hope he's
Yeah.
recovering. I think he's doing pretty well.
Two
So-
brand new hips. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna
Bionic
live
Spurge.
forever.
Yeah.
We hope so. We need him.
Spurge be able to dunk now, no problem.
Oh, yeah. Take off from the foul line.
Yep.
LeBron better watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well, so, when did, Tony and Leah, when did you arrive in Esterville?
Friday night, about, what was it, 10:30?
Yeah, about 10 o'clock.
p.m.
Okay. So, did you, take off after work then, or?
Well, I went in for just a half day, so
Okay.
we left around. Well, I got home about 11:30, and then we did the frantic emergency packing since we had been procrastinating all week leading up to the big departure. I don't
Nice.
think we actually left Wichita
About 2
until-
o'clock or something.
Yeah, because you two are no strangers to the driving in the middle of the night and that kind of
No,
stuff, right?
although
Yeah.
This drive was kind of nice because we did relatively leave earlier since it wasn't like a work until 3 or 4 o'clock and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were both a lot more alert for more of the drive.
Good. Didn't run into Andy Inman
No,
and
not
Emily on the way
this
back.
time.
this
No,
time,
we
yeah.
were talking
So
about
cool.
that, though. That
Yeah.
That's just
You've heard
a
that story, haven't you,
random-
Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
random
Yep.
gas station.
Yeah,
It
That's a
wasn't even
great
a
story.
big truck stop or anything.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I think we were taking a little different route that time because of flooding on the Missouri River or something. And I mean, it's a podunk gas station.
But
They're in the
Tony's-
car right next to us.
Mhm.
Hey, Andy, how you
Tony's
doing?
got a reputation for doing things like this. Ran into his great uncle coming back from Arizona in the middle of, I don't know what
That was on
it,
the turnpike.
Kansas
Yeah, that was fun too.
one time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And Leah, you went through a broken wrist, was it? Or
Yeah. I
Maybe you don't
broke-
want to talk about that on the podcast.
No,
I don't know.
we can. Just be careful. Tony likes to whip out X-rays.
Hold the scar up to the camera, honey.
Oh, boy.
Just what everyone
Oh,
wants
boy.
to see,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that's showing
So
up.
there's your
but-
proof.
Yep.
Workers'
Not quite as
comp.
bionic
There's your
as
proof.
Spurge, but
Yeah.
he's getting there.
No, just
Bionic
some
Spurge.
titanium and some screws going on.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I recommend for all equestrians out there, just stay on the horse.
Mhm.
I obviously need a little more practice with that, but we're working on it.
So did you get bucked off then, kind of, or
No,
what happened?
Well, so it's actually kind of a funny story because my trainer rides my horse once a week,
Mm-hmm.
and it was one of those like might be the last nice weekend day in late October, and so I was riding one of her horses that I had ridden. I've ridden him before, and we were outside in the outdoor arena. And normally, if horses are uncomfortable or skittish, it happens pretty early on. Oh, yeah, I'm a little short. Yeah. Thanks. So anyways, we had been out for 30, 35 minutes, and my horse, something scared him, or he Fruit Looped out, and his spook then caused the horse I was on to spook when we had been going on great, and he wasn't tense, or I didn't anticipate it coming, but he's a bigger mover than my horse, and
Okay.
instead of going from like a trot to gallop straight on, this one he spun left, and the whole conservation of momentum thing and Newton's laws, I did not spin left. I kind of kept going straight. Was gonna face plant, but decided to save the face. I had my helmet on, but it doesn't
Yeah.
cover the face, so the left wrist was sacrificed.
You do what you got to
But-
do.
Do what you gotta do. Everything stayed intact, closed fracture.
Yeah.
Broke the radius and the ulna.
Oof.
Fine form. You know it's a good one when you go into urgent care and the X-ray tech looks at it and kind of grimaces
Oh,
and
jeez.
says, "I don't want to deal with you. You can go over to the hospital."
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it was good. To be honest, I was a bigger weenie about the stitches or
Oh, really?
post-surgery,
Hmm.
like dealing with the incision, than I was the actual break itself.
Sure.
Yeah, I suppose probably got a little shock going on when.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was doing pretty good. I called Tony. He was out at the airport. Kind of did one of those. It was 45 minutes outside of town of, hey, you may want to start heading back towards town.
Pick you
So-
up in the airplane. Take you.
Yeah.
Take you to the hospital.
I actually got yelled
I
at.
tried to tell her, yeah, I work for an air ambulance company. I'm like, come on, we have a membership, free helicopter ride.
However,
Be like a 3-minute helicopter
I felt that riding in a helicopter would be a little overkill for a broken wrist.
Yeah.
Like I was able to walk and I was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed a friend to drive me to said
Yeah.
ER. But
Well, good. We're glad you're on the mend.
yep, doing good.
So excellent. Yeah.
Can start doing fun things again in January.
Okay. Yeah. Are you kind of on a restriction? Or
Yeah,
doing...
I'm on a 5-pound weight
Yeah.
limit, and I'm not supposed to do any impact prone activities, which
Mhm.
basically means no fun, no fun activities.
Oh dear. Well, I hope you can do some fun stuff.
Yeah,
Nonetheless,
no, it's good.
put the bodybuilding with weightlifting
Right,
aside,
yeah,
for a
just
few weeks.
avoiding,
and, yep.
like sleds being towed behind
Yeah.
pickups and that sort of, riding or skiing
Sure.
and whatnot. But
Yeah.
no, we're good.
Kyle, you got a couple of weeks off school.
Yep, we are on break right now. Basketball's on a dead week too, so all I really have to worry about is Christmas and the baby.
Yay.
So,
Good deal.
yep, it's good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Kids need a break.
yeah, everybody needs, I'm sure, needs some time to recuperate, but
Yep.
yeah, I keep talking to Laura. It's like, oh, you have to work tomorrow? You gotta what? Huh? It's like, dear, not everything is like the school.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
some of us, I hate the Wednesday Christmas though. That's like the worst
yeah,
in terms
that is a
of
bad Christmas.
getting time off.
Is New Year's on a week?
It's
Weekend.
Wednesday as
Also
well.
It's
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah.
7 days different.
It's awful.
Well, New Year's Day is Wednesday, so I think the 31st is that Tuesday then.
Better than a Sunday. New Year's Day on a Sunday. That'd be
Yeah.
kinda rough.
Yeah,
I suppose.
going to work hungover.
Mm-hmm.
No thanks.
Speak for yourself.
Well, if we're ready to dive into some material here, we've got an Eric video
Yep. First and
that I
foremost,
can.
shout out, like, comment, subscribe. I don't know what his channel is. Probably
I think it's Eric Hansen.
Eric. Who would have
There you
thought?
go. Easy to find.
This just popped up the other day. Keto garlic bread.
It sounds,
So
it sounds like he's trying the keto diet. Then.
Yeah.
I don't know much about this. Is it no carb or? I have no idea.
I think keto refers to ketosis, right? So they like instead of your body burning carbs for energy, the idea is it burns fat instead. So you have to take in really low carbs, I think,
Okay.
in order to
So
get
it's
yourself
no
into
carb. Okay.
Yeah.
High meat.
ketosis.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I
Apparently
mean,
when you get into it, it burns like 1.5 pounds of fat a day.
Jeez.
oh really?
Yeah.
Gnarly.
But if you eat like one thing that has 2 grams of carb in
A
it,
Triscuit.
then you do like 3 days of getting back. Yeah, like
Yeah.
a Triscuit. Exactly one.
Jeez.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah.
Well, to his defense, he does look trimmer.
Yeah,
Just
Eric
in this
looks great.
Still frame. So.
Yep. So
Good
this
for him.
video just popped up. Yeah, I posted on the 19th. It's got 20 views already. So
More than
taking
us.
off like gangbusters. Yeah.
love
Hello,
his
YouTube. We're gonna make some keto garlic bread today.
Oh, Eric.
Oh, I love it.
He had some enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
So Leah's
I don't know if I can do 5 minutes.
Leah doesn't know Eric.
No,
How-
not really.
Tony,
met Eric
he was in your
I met
class.
him once. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you describe old Eric?
How would I describe
Yeah.
it? Well, I mean, that little 8-second clip we just heard there does a pretty good job. I mean, Eric's always had a lot of enthusiasm,
Oh,
that's for
man.
sure.
He's great.
I've never.
Mhm.
He loves
I mean,
life.
Like,
Gung-ho.
I think I might have had swimming lessons with Eric. That was probably my first experience with him, like, because he went to the Christian school, so the only time he was like this stranger from the top of the hill. But during the summertime, it's like, everybody had swimming lessons
Yep.
together. So, and then I remember there's this song that he wrote in like sophomore English. That there was a unit where one of the options was to write a song.
Make your own song, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually came up with a really clever song, and of course, we were in band and stuff, and so he
Mhm.
like played the keyboard with it and made a video of
That's
it.
impressive.
And I mean, that would be some pretty viral stuff if he still had that
Mm-hmm.
hanging around. So.
Well, Eric's got a channel, and he's got a video, I think, from like 2007 or something that's still
Ah.
up. Yeah, so he's
Well,
kind of
maybe it is.
OG YouTube.
Yeah.
And I've been holding off on doing too much Eric material
Yeah.
because we want to do a deep dive of just Eric, an entire Eric episode. Get him on
He's a
the
cool guy, though.
podcast.
He's
Oh
fun
yeah.
guy.
Oh man, he is a riot.
Everyone's been bouncing on me to make something keto. If you go like this, you can hit your head on the shelf.
It's a good, disclaimer, safety message to
great
start
comment.
your video with.
So I'm sure he's got his phone like propped up on something
Yeah, oh,
in the
yeah.
kitchen here. Yeah, like this is his cabinet for sure.
Because we're professionals here. So, you got a bowl. Why don't I have the bowl in the field of vision? Whatever, you get a bowl.
It's mad. I don't know if I want to
like
do this
a bag
keto
of
thing if it just
rice-
pisses you off the whole time.
Yeah, maybe it's like, oh god, I just need some carbs. Anything.
Rice cauliflower. See that? No name, no demonetization. Look at that. So you cut open your rice cauliflower, dump it in your bowl. Feel like Wreck-It Ralph doing a video. Someone said I should make slime, but you dump the rice in a bowl. God, the angle is horrible. Just gotta. Oh, look, you can see a bowl now.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh yeah. Have you been to his new
Problem
place
solver.
yet, Kyle?
Mm-mm.
I haven't either.
No.
He threw a house party or something a while back, but
Yeah.
had something going on. I couldn't make it, but regretfully.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's
He's
living.
still living in town.
He moved over to Spirit Lake, I believe,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure exactly where.
Is he still working at Fairway here?
He's at Fairway, but I believe he's at Spirit Lake Fairway
Spirit
now.
Lake.
Yeah.
He moved over there.
So yep. So we miss him, obviously,
Yeah.
but still get to see him every so often.
Yeah, it's not
All
that
right,
far.
safety is
No,
our
that's true.
number one priority. And you take and just
Snack break.
Milk and cookies?
I'm sure it's a keto cookie.
Yeah, it better be
It's
a keto
gotta be,
cookie,
yeah.
Eric. Yeah.
you take your already horribly 1 minute in. All right. Next, you take want the mozzarella from mozzarella. Here. Notice I'm hiding branding. I'm good. I want people to watch this, not make it fake. So that's a half cup. Recipe says a cup. You add more than that.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. So he's mixing up the keto stuff. And I think, yeah, here's when he gets it on the pan.
All right. So it looks like glop. And whatever. You want to do is put this into a 425 degree oven for 25 minutes. Are you gonna make me bend over? Put it in the oven.
Oh man.
In this oven, it's movie magic. So I've eaten I've eaten a lot of it. Yeah, it looks like this. Here's the bottom. Turned out beautifully. And do you want me to eat it? It's kind of cold. It's best warm, but I'll eat it for the. Tastes like garlic. And that is how you make keto garlic bread.
I'd probably give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, I mean,
I mean, there's
easy
cheese in it.
Yeah, I know, I was
What's
gonna
not
say.
to like about garlic and cheese?
anything with cheese. Oh, Eric.
Oh,
That's
yeah. Good stuff, huh? Tony, do you want to watch a little Rock On Steve?
good.
Yeah, man.
Your favorite.
I was thinking on the drive up here, by the way, that, you know, I mean, obviously, as anybody with eyes can see, that Esterville is an up-and-coming rising star community. And
Yep.
what we need now, I mean, seriously, you know, you got, you know, fresh leadership at the city level.
Yep.
You know, a new councilman, a new mayor. And what you need is a film festival. I think the Esterville Film Festival
Yep.
is gonna, and you guys are
God.
There you
gonna,
go.
you know,
With
you
our
guys are gonna be
community.
the ones to start it.
Yeah. Well, we could broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Project
Well, I
Ion
mean,
Film
you guys
Fest.
probably, I figured you guys probably still have, keys.
Keys to the
the
movie
Oh,
theater,
yeah.
theater and stuff, you know. So,
You betcha.
but I figured between Rock On Steve and Okoboji Girls, we could pretty well get the music video part of the film festival filled out.
So here's a good one. I don't know if we've watched. I think maybe we've played this at some juncture. My Hallelujah, Hiya, Hiya, Hiya,
I am too.
I Am Too by Steven.
Yes. New 2015 Steven music is on the way.
New novel series.
Steven, I have a new song.
Oh, man, I can't wait to
we are
hear
writing
this.
on July the 6th.
Leah, are you familiar with Rock On Steve? Or slightly?
I've seen him in action at least one or two ELC
Yeah.
basketball games, helping to liven up the student section. But that's really my my only exposure or experience outside of stories.
He got kicked out of the football or the basketball games. He can't go there anymore.
That's what I've heard. Although
That's
it
what-
seemed like he
that's
was
what,
getting the student group all.
That's what ELC does with
Wound
fans
up.
who are a little too
Enthusiastic.
Too
Yeah.
I see.
enthusiastic, yeah.
Kick them out.
Yeah. Well,
So-
he's something.
He's got a little bit of a formula to his song recordation here. So he likes to just kind of overdub himself talking like 5 times over drum, like the drum machine, for a good minute and a half, and then he
Good to
gets
have
into
a
the
formula.
song. Yep. So that's what we're in right now.
Okay.
Is the drum machine intro.
6th, titled My Hallelujah. And today is the month. I wrote this song for my brother Jerry, who lives on the East Coast of America. My brother Rob. And this also is dedicated to
is so
Mr.
full of
Stuart
himself.
Weston, who's an amazing visionary photographer.
I'm heard all over the world. I've got a new book series being
Yeah.
published. It's only $300 on Amazon.
Where do you think that like is coming from? I mean, because I like the conspiracy theory. of Rock On Steve is actually like a
PhD.
PhD from the East Coast or something, and he's rode a bike in and started from scratch, and
Tried to see if he could be mayor.
yep, and that was like his magnum opus, was become mayor of fool everybody into thinking he was
Maybe
a
it's
crazy.
like, you know,
best-selling-
Borat.
A best-selling
Yeah.
book will come out in about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
How I infiltrated the small town Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the heartland of America.
Right.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just crazy.
Yeah, Occam's razor. He's probably just psycho.
For an artist and designer, just incredible art. So this goes out to you, Stuart, and to everyone.
Great lighting.
This is a mind.
Oh, jeez. It's yeah, he like lives at the intersection of kind of interpretive avant-garde
Yeah.
film and I don't know. My favorite song is the Shamalama one. That one like at least has the trappings of a decent song. Oh, is this his supermodel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's his girl. She
Yeah.
has to be in his video.
Yep. According to one of his speeches, Rock on Steve wanted to, or she solicited him like, hey, Rock on Steve, put me in your music video.
I'll send you some pictures, but no video.
And yeah, there's gonna be a watermark from whatever magazine this is ripped out of.
Why is he always the worst singer now?
Maybe it's just for the music
It's a
video.
sharp dressed man.
My garage. Not attached.
Does he
Yeah.
still live over by Mother Nature?
Yep. Right on Central.
Unscooped.
Yeah. Come on, Steve.
Says you're rocking. Yeah, and Tony says Rock on Steve's better than Diplodocus.
Yeah,
come on. There's no way.
You need to defend yourself on that one.
30 seconds, go.
Yeah. On what basis, Tony?
Well,
Come on.
opinions don't require defense, Jim. You should know this. So.
Some do.
We'll label it a troll.
Yeah, it's applicable here.
There is a choir of angels who sing. The voices all
Fruit.
Hey, that's fruit. Not gonna get screwed.
Yeah, we
up
got
in
blueberries, strawberries, grapes.
Something
that house.
orange in
Nice little
there.
fruit salad.
Yeah,
Some
not
peaches,
bad, Steve.
mandarins.
Peaches. Good job, Steve.
I wonder if this is the Rock On Kitchen.
It might be, yeah. What
Oh,
is it?
is
Rock
this-
on Cafe.
Is this the one with the credits that it says like, catering by Rock On Steve? Like it goes like directed by Rock On Steve. Credits. Oh yeah, here
Yeah.
we go. Skip ahead, all this crap.
My name is Steven.
Steven Music. Accinia Films.
Yes, new 2015 Steven Music is on the way. And my name is Steven. I have a new song.
We're by Steven.
Writing on July the 6th, titled Right Hallelujah.
Set
Well, that way
design.
no one's, confused.
Set,
Just-
set design. Production.
Give credit where credit's due, right?
Well, Bio is his cat. So Bio
Oh,
made the
okay.
credits.
Not,
Yep.
not
And today is like
Catered by.
Catered Rock On Cafe.
oh yeah. I
Oh,
didn't see that one on Yelp.
jeez.
Sorry, Steve, but if you just go to your kitchen for a sandwich, well in the
Not
middle
a
of
cafe.
it,
I think
it's
you
not
guys-
catering.
You guys really got to get Steve on the podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose we've attacked him pretty heavy. behind
Yeah.
the back, so.
He may hate us now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Big thank you to Oxinia.
this our roofer snake manufacturer Gary,
Now
who
rock
lives
that.
on the
I'm
East
Rock
Coast.
On. My name is Steven Rock. What a way to end it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like the Rock On Steve thing's a little bit of a dead horse at this point, but
Yeah,
we'll see
that-
if he comes out with some new stuff soon.
Yeah. The
But we-
novelty was there.
We may have a
Sure.
replacement that I dug up.
Oh.
Let's see if I can buy me some stall for me quick, Kyle, while I type this in here.
How about the weather?
Yeah, it's
40
been warmer
degrees.
lately.
Warm,
Wasn't-
yeah.
You
It hardly
betcha.
feels like Christmas out there.
Yeah.
See if there's any snow left. It's starting to melt.
Yep. Did anybody watch the last Democratic debate?
No.
No.
It
Please,
was
Daddy,
We're-
don't
we're
get
bad
drunk
citizens.
don't
Yeah.
get drunk this Christmas. It's okay.
Please, Daddy, don't get drunk.
John Denver sang this song.
Hey, Johnny D.
Here we go. So Lisa Murphy is the singing cowgirl, and she's working the nursing home circuit in Southwest Minnesota.
Okay.
And I think she was playing the Laverne nursing home today. She's actually like technically pretty sound, but this video's hilarious. And it's timely
pony.
since it's about Christmas.
I'm not familiar
Please, Daddy, don't get drunk this Christmas. I don't want to see my mama
Nope.
cry. Please, Daddy, don't get drunk
It's a nice
this
reprieve from horrible, out of tune everything. But I mean, this is like a what? Terry Redland
Americana.
Americana,
Yeah.
like a Norman Rockwell thing.
Got the barn, the
Nice little
farmhouse,
green
little
screen going
Victorian,
there,
Yep, green screen action.
horse-drawn sleigh, maybe, or buggy in the background. Like the campfire in the foreground.
Honestly, it doesn't really look like the scene where you would expect Daddy to get drunk on Christmas.
Christmas. I don't want to see my mama cry. Just last year.
Is this your jam, Kyle?
Now I'm just thinking if I have to look forward to this when I'm like 80 or 90.
When you're in the nursing
Yeah. Just end it.
Dad's got some story about a guy that his kids showed up and was like, "Okay, we're gonna take you to the nursing home." He said, "Okay, that'll be just fine. Come back tomorrow."
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they showed up, guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't going into the nursing home.
Dang.
Going somewhere else.
Yep. So yeah, spare the viewership all the gory details, but yeah, he wasn't going in. I don't know. I kind of respect.
Yeah,
that, I
you
think,
can definitely, especially if it's like, you're not throwing that guilt at your kids or whatever. It's just,
Yep.
Come back.
Apparently, that's the same guy, and I can't give it to you book and verse, but he rode a horse into the what is now the city offices, which was formerly the Guardston Hotel.
Nice.
Once they, had Victory in Europe Day, and
Well, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did,
I
was
mean-
it a hotel at that time
Yep.
that he rode in?
yeah, it was a hotel restaurant kind
Kind of
of.
worry about like the horse slipping on the marble or whatever the floor.
Yeah,
is,
I don't-
but-
I don't know. It'd be hard for me to imagine it being anything but the city offices anymore. But yeah, I suppose at the time it was probably pretty
Schmank.
deluxe in there. But yeah, I mean, I think people are just out celebrating in the streets.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Won the war, so yeah, he took off and went into the
That's awesome.
Guardston Hotel on horseback.
Had someone hold the doors open for
Yeah.
him.
Yep.
When I was only 7. Now I'm almost 8, as you can see. You came home and hollered Merry Christmas.
About analyzing the first Democratic debate.
Oh yeah.
That's what I meant. Like, here we are.
Well, I've done my damnedest
Yeah.
to try to lower the brow of this
Yeah.
production as much as possible.
I want to know how you find this. Like, how much time do you devote to
Just
searching
hours.
out
All day long.
the next up
You
and
know,
coming talent?
Do a billable hour at work in about 5 minutes, and then I'm just, combing YouTube.
Looking for content.
Speaking of YouTubers, we've got one here in our midst by the name of Tony Condon.
Uh-oh.
You got your own
Oh.
YouTube channel.
Oh, boy.
You do?
Yeah, probably have a couple gliding videos or something.
The
on
Cherokee
there.
Kid, or what is it still?
I think.
Oh, here's your appearance on the Black
Oh,
Friday special.
That was probably the best episode of this podcast. I've ever had.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Oh, there I am getting interviewed right there. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, from the Sailplane Grand Prix
Let's-
down there in Florida. That was a fun race.
So set the stage for us here.
So we're this is a format of glider racing. Gliders, of course, no engined aircraft, and it's a head-to-head race. So, just like a local dirt track race, everyone starts lined up abreast, and you go around turn points, and the first one back wins. I think I got like second or third this day. It was the last day of the contest, and it was my only podium finish for that.
Okay.
Contest. Yeah, but it was pretty fun.
Nice.
We had a good day. A good time. It was about 6 days of flying in Florida a couple years ago.
Cool.
And this
Yeah.
was the day that we found the alligator
Oh,
on the
yeah.
runway.
Yeah, that was exciting
Ooh.
for the foreigners especially.
And we had the British pilot try to chase the alligator off for
This
to
was
get
in
a
Central
picture.
Florida. We were like an hour west of Disney.
How big was this gator?
It was a baby.
It was
Oh,
pretty
baby,
small,
okay.
but they were still getting a little closer to it than I think some locals were comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Gators are like bears, though. You know, as long as you're not like the closest person to the gator, then you're fine.
As long as you can outrun your friends, you're good.
Well, my understanding is they can move surprisingly quickly in like short bursts.
Yeah, in
so,
straight lines.
Yeah.
And, yep.
So,
Anyways.
yeah, I've heard the horror stories from my relatives down there. The Central Florida is full of lakes and that kind of little
Yeah, every little
swamps
pond,
and
every little
stuff,
pond's
and
got a gator.
yeah, and
Yes.
some of them get pretty big.
I'd stay with the Iowa Great Lakes. There's less things that'll eat you in
Yeah.
the lakes.
Possums.
Watch out for muskie, I guess.
Awesome.
But
All right, welcome to Sailplane
There
Grand
he
Prix
is.
Day 6. We're here with our daily winners. Rich Owen with Zulu Oscar, the local patron here.
So, did you know these other guys before you?
I don't think I'd ever met these two. I knew of Rich. The guy
He's
in the
in the
middle,
blue.
the guy in the middle, John Gatfield. He's from the UK, and he's managed to fashion. He's kind of a legend in my opinion because he's managed to fashion a lifestyle where I don't think he has any sort of a real job,
or maybe he's retired.
Just
I don't
gliding?
know.
and he just goes all over the world, flies gliders.
So the Grand Prix format, there's one. Well, there's the one in the U.S. and then there's a few in Europe, and they had one. Was it Australia? There's kind of different
Yeah.
countries
They do-
host one.
It's just
so
like a Formula One car race, so they have qualifying races around them,
and then they have a
and then
finals.
they have a final race.
Mhm.
to
So
determine the
he's
championship.
managed to work kind of a bit of a circuit and get a few races in the series. So
Okay.
yep, life goals for Tony.
Just to be full time glidering.
I think I need to work on getting a promotion before we can pull that one off for you.
Where's the closest race to Iowa?
They do up in Albert Lee. The
Oh.
last few years, they've had regional contests there.
Right, it's not a Grand Prix style, but the closest Soaring Society of America sanctioned event.
Gotcha.
I flew that one a few years. Actually, I had Beardsley crew for me a couple times up there, which was pretty fun. He had a good time with that. So, yeah,
I was crewing for you here at this race.
yeah. Leo was my ground crew here. I never landed out though. That made life easier.
No, but I still had to help you put water in wingtips and assemble.
Yeah,
So how do you get started?
you get towed up behind an airplane to get started.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple thousand feet, and then after that, you just kind of find rising air currents to stay up and keep going.
And they tend to wait until everyone's launched. There's a slight delay from the last person in the competition who gets out. So in the meantime, everyone else just has to loiter behind the start line, making sure you don't mess up and end up back on the ground before everything gets started.
Yeah, Tony, on your channel, you've got a couple of videos that look like radar or something. Is that when it maps a flight
those
path or
were-
something?
Yeah,
Or?
that's right.
Fly with CU.
That's what. Yeah, those were some of the big downwind glider flights that I did.
Mhm.
Where a friend of mine overlaid the GPS flight trace with the satellite loop.
Okay.
That
To
was
kind of
pretty
see the
cool.
weather front or what
Yeah.
was going
Yep.
on.
Those were on like those 500-mile flights that I did from Kansas down to southeast Texas.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
But there wasn't as much of a speed component. You weren't racing anyone
Yeah.
per se.
I think I think probably Tony Connon, all one word, is probably my
Your channel?
on that.
Yeah, because I'd like to play one of those to show them what we're talking about.
13 subscribers.
Here we
There
are.
it is. Yep, that's me. Perfect. Yeah, do that Sunflower to LaGrange one.
LaGrange is in
Oh,
Texas.
unfortunately, this is only 5 seconds. But yeah, that little trace there is my last hour. You know, the length of that line is how far I went in the previous hour. And so you can see it following the cumulus cloud
Jeez.
there.
So how much time did that take?
That was like a 7-hour flight.
Okay.
Maybe 7
Wow.
and a half.
Yeah, so quite the marathon.
Go
really.
back to the list. There's another one that is similar, but the Ames to Madison one. That one was a good one too. That was in September. I drove up to Ames and took off, and ended up in western Kentucky.
So no
You can
motor.
kind of see how the
just one
clouds are
tow.
lined up with the wind,
Yeah.
and so I was trying to follow those lines. That was like a 400 and some mile flight. That's actually the state record distance flight for a glider in Iowa now.
Okay.
So
Very impressive.
Do you know somebody then in Western Kentucky who?
No, actually, that was interesting on this one. I didn't have my friend Matt Michael in Ames. He taught me to fly gliders here, and he helped me get launched. But he was like willing to crew for me, but a little non-committal on. He had like an appointment that day and whatever. But he's like, "I'll come get you." And so he actually, after I landed, he jumped in his airplane, flew to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I just tied the glider down at the airport there, and he flew me back to Ames that night.
Nice.
So Tony self-retrieved.
So I left the glider in Kentucky.
Sure.
And the next morning, I left his house at like 6 in the morning with the trailer and drove back to Kentucky. Found a guy at the airport to help me put the glider in a trailer, and then I drove back
Okay.
to Wichita.
As those who may not know, like the wings come off
Yep.
and will go parallel to the fuselage and wing on either side of the fuselage, and that's how it kind of gets stuffed into, what'd you say, like a 25-foot long skinny trailer.
Yep.
Narrower, about the same width, if not narrower, than your car.
So do you have to? I would assume you'd have to call in to the airport while you're up
Yeah.
there and say, "Hey, I'm coming down."
Yep. You got a radio in there just like
Yep.
an airplane. It's just battery powered instead of
Yeah.
engine powered. Yep.
Is there a way when you land, do you mark it somehow, like on GPS or something, so you know exactly, or do you took
Yeah,
it back to the airport or something, or the nearest one or something? Or I
We-
mean, how did you get know exactly where it was when you're driving back to it in your car?
Oh, no, it was at an airport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on this flight, I landed at a municipal airport.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
But when they do fly, they do have, or at least Tony has, a pretty sophisticated kind of flight computer GPS system that they use to track. So if it was maybe at a different location or an off-field landing, you
Yeah.
could probably trace it pretty easily. Like when he flies, I get a text that I can kind of follow along his flight trace. So could pull that up and just read road intersections if needed.
It sounds pretty gnarly.
It's pretty fun.
Definitely, we get spoiled in the modern age with all the technology that you have. Like when I first started chasing, you were still paper maps and didn't have pre-smartphones, and even the fact that you
Yeah.
had a phone was pretty nifty compared to people talking about doing it in like the 60s and the 70s, and they would call back to, let's say, the airport that they took off from, and then their chase crew would do the same. They'd call back to a common point, and they would kind of serve as a relay to say, have you heard from glider XYZ? And they'd say yes or no, and if yes, where they were located.
Jeez, that
Which
would
is just
seem like
crazy.
take forever to find people.
Scroll through those. I want to see what else is on here, Jim.
You
Well, I
don't
was
remember,
wondering-
huh? Winding up rope.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there
So-
like a big fish on the end of this
No.
or something? Or-
I think this-
Okay, what could go wrong with this? So let me get on this side before you.
Yeah. So my
Okay.
Gardner cousins built me this contraption. So sometimes we launch gliders instead of towing behind an airplane. We launch with the car. So we have like a couple thousand feet of rope, and we just drive. We have one end hooked to the car and the other end hooked to the glider.
And
Mm-hmm.
the
So
runway
we just drive
fly,
down the runway.
we fly off of is 7,000 feet long. So
Okay.
you have a pretty decent stretch of open.
So it's a fun way to launch, except that you have a couple thousand feet of rope to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Gardner cousins built me this electric powered reel to wind the rope up with.
Mm-hmm.
So this was our testing it out a couple years
Oh,
ago.
okay. How fast do you have to get the car going in
Just
order
like
to?
50 or 55.
Yeah,
is usually
Okay.
fine.
it
It's not bad. Depends on the wind.
Yeah.
If there's a bigger headwind, you don't have to even go quite that fast.
That's cool.
Let's see how it goes.
What are we pulling? 4,000 foot of rope? see we have the mic log back level wind here.
One of these videos is one I wrote has got Josie's like with a glove just helping to guide the rope.
Oh, okay.
She started getting static electricity built up so bad it shot through the soles of her feet.
Are you helping
Wow.
it, Mike? I wasn't earlier, but I don't know if your batteries.
It's hooked up to car battery.
Okay.
In case inquiring minds are wondering.
You've pretty much seen everything there is to see in the video. So.
Oh, this must be Josie.
That's
huh?
Joe, yeah.
Same contraption.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. That's cool.
Yeah, I think there's actually a video on there if you go back to my list there of
Yeah, I don't
Lego
think that's
rope
you.
winding machine. Yeah, that's somebody else.
of me landing in a field. If you scroll
Stay
back.
high and have faith.
This is
that
probably
one,
like
or
my
Gone with the Wind.
no, never mind. Must have been an older
On different channel.
channel or something from
Hmm.
college days.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or you have some for like the KSA where you've got some like landing from glider side or whatnot. But anyways,
Yeah, we could bore you for hours with gliding videos.
So,
be careful what you ask.
what does it take for the average person to get into gliding? So, if they want to say, I'm completely
Right, if you
Well, that was me.
Green,
So
yep.
I didn't have a powered rating at all when I got my private pilot sailplane certification.
hmm
So basically, the Soaring Society of America is our governing body here in the U.S. and they on their website. So it's what is it, SSA.org, something like that. But you can go to the tracker. You can look up where the closest glider port would be in your area. And Tony will let you take over from here.
You to be able to get your license to carry passengers, you got to get 20 hours, I think, total flight time in a glider. And
Is it hours or flights?
hours, and if you're not already an airplane pilot,
Well, for commercial. But if they're just talking about private,
yeah,
you said to carry
20 hours
passengers.
to carry passengers. Yeah.
And do you have to buy your own, or can you
No,
rent one somewhere?
Mostly it's set up. There's some commercial operations, like in Faribault, Minnesota. There's a commercial school there where you can buy a ride or rent a glider for lessons. And then otherwise, there's clubs that are set up around the country where you can join the club and then rent a glider from the club.
So like Silent Nights down in Ames, Iowa.
Yep.
Be another Iowa-based club.
Yep. So
Very cool.
Here and there's commercial operation in Faribault, and then there's a club in Stanton,
Minnesota.
southeast of Minnesota. So, which most of the Minneapolis guys are out there. So.
Is it a thing where is it helpful to have a regular pilot's license first, or in addition
Not
to?
necessarily. I mean, if you're already an airplane pilot, then the hours required to get a glider license are way lower.
I think it's
Let's
half,
like 3
isn't
or
it?
something instead of 20, because
Okay.
you already have 40 plus hours in airplanes. So
And you don't have to take the written exam.
that's true. Yeah, if you're already an airplane pilot.
But if you're a glider pilot and you're crossing over to powered, you have to take a written knowledge test again.
Okay. And is the governing body you said it was soaring?
The Soaring Society does they organize like competitions,
Okay.
and they have like a badge program and a safety program and stuff. But your license is under the FAA,
Oh, okay.
just
Yeah.
like a normal airplane
Sure.
pilot. Yep.
Alrighty.
Governed by all the same rules that the airplane pilots have
Yep.
to follow.
So you'll have to take a check ride. Someone
Mhm.
has to put you through your paces.
Yeah. That's interesting. How expensive is it to get started with something like
So
that? Is it?
It's about the training itself works out to be about as expensive as learning to fly in a light airplane, because when you're doing training, you're mostly just going up and down.
Mhm.
So you have a tow plane pulling you up all the time.
Yep.
And you're essentially running 2 aircraft
And
for the whole time you're doing training.
There's a price per tow for, let's say, up to 2,000 feet, and then there's the rental
Sure.
expense for whatever glider you're
But
using.
once you can start to stay up, on just for the price of a tow, basically you can stay up for hours. So a typical, like a cheap club would be like $20 or $25 for a tow.
Mm-hmm.
A commercial operation would probably be like $55 or $60 for a tow.
Oh, that's
But
not-
you could fly for hours.
yeah,
like that.
afternoon
Yeah.
entertainment.
Right.
25
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than bowling today.
Freaking movies now. Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Well, thanks for all that information. I have always been interested in all your glider activities,
Yeah.
but
Have you gone up for a ride?
I have not. No,
you know,
it's,
considering that he started in college and you were
Mhm.
roommates in college,
Yeah.
I think he owes you a flight at
right.
some point.
Yeah. Well, I need to.
time, yeah.
Been meaning to come visit you guys in
gotta-
Wichita all these years,
You've
but
been up in an airplane with me once or twice.
Yep. I remember I tagged along on a few of your flights when you would. I remember flying to Woody's for supper a time or two.
Having a student
With
do
a
some
student
cross
along,
country.
yeah,
that was
we
my
were-
favorite thing to do in college. yeah.
Yep. It was like a night working on like
Yeah,
nighttime
'cause-
flying or
so
something.
To get your FAA, to get your private license, you got to have a 100-mile night cross country flight, and from Ames to Estoril is like 101 miles or
Mhm.
something. It's perfect. And so all my students would fly to Estoril for their night cross country, and then
Get Woody's?
Dad would pick us up
Yep.
at the airport. We'd go get Woody's. I'd get like 6 or 8 half-baked large pizzas to bring home with me.
That worked out pretty well for the roommates.
So
I
Yeah, it
think.
was
like
wonderful.
The next 2 weeks, we had something to eat. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good gig going there.
Yeah, we limped along on lots of Woody's pizza and humongous, cauldrons of like goulash and
Right. Yeah.
stuff like
Chocolate
that.
chip
Yeah.
cookies.
How long of a flight is that from Ames to?
It's like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's
nothing.
not bad.
Yeah, it's just like an
Nice.
afterthought. So, yep, it was always pretty cool. And then one time you made me actually fly for a little while, which was terrifying. We just kind of went through the air like this, I think, because I kept going like
I
oversteering.
suppose it's probably just like driving your first time.
Yeah, well, that's what bothered me about it. Is I couldn't just stop.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah.
Be like, hey, take the controls back. I don't want it anymore.
You just have to keep going. Yeah.
But the nice thing is, I mean, you do have a certified flight instructor in the plane with you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was his pickup first date with me. Was he gave me the opportunity to fly a plane.
Is that right? I
Yeah.
didn't know that story about
Yeah.
you too.
You're coming in the plane.
And it was bowling, and I'm an atrocious bowler.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
like to think of the first date being more him letting me fly a Cessna 150, 152, rather than him creaming me in bowling.
After I kicked her
Without
butt in bowling,
bumpers.
then we went home and we played some Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah,
and
he
I killed
creamed
her
me in that
Tecmo
too.
Bowl.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was love at first sight.
Yeah. Cause how far into college were we when you guys started dating? I
So
can't
it
remember.
was the
was like
second
junior, senior.
semester
Yeah.
of sophomore year.
Oh, really? That early?
Well, because we were both on internship. It was
Yeah.
either that one, I can't remember if it was my first or my second session of internship, but I think it was sophomore year, the first one. About partway through February or so, Tony came down to visit a mutual friend of ours, and
Yeah.
the poor mutual friend then, because he and I were interning co-oping at the same company. And the mutual friend, all he knew is the second time Tony came down, he wasn't really coming to visit our friend Royce.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming to hang out with me,
Yep.
something like that,
That's
right?
how it works.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, cause my recollection, Leah, is just that I just remember you always being around. So I don't have a whole lot of memory of being at Freddie
Well,
when you
it
weren't in the
wasn't-
picture, sort of.
I
so.
think it was probably the second year you were at Frederickson Court.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes
that was the
sense.
first
So
year
not
with
the
Jim.
first.
Yeah.
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 Because I didn't meet the one roommate that you guys had. Schwar, or what his name was. But,
Oh God.
but I think it was after that. I was around, watching you guys play Guitar Hero.
Oh,
and,
man.
Tiger Woods golf.
Actually, that's one thing we should put in the public record, that
Yep.
the fact that Jim and I's friendship survived Guitar Hero. Is
That's
quite
true.
the-
Yeah.
Especially since
quite the
Tony
testament, I
is
think.
Well-
the non-guitar
I mean,
player.
Yeah.
when this is by about the middle of February, both Jim and I are getting like D's, and
And everything.
Except expert level.
I was
Guitar
like,
Hero.
and this one day I just finally beat Bark at the Moon on expert, and I mean he and I had been just every
Just
spare
battling,
moment
yeah.
available. That was
Just
all
playing
we were
Guitar
doing.
Hero.
We're not sleeping. We're not studying. We're not doing homework. And
Sure, your
Jim,
parents
Jim
were
comes
so
home
proud.
from class, and I'm like, Jim, I did it. I passed it, you know. And the look on his face was just, he was crushed, you know, because he actually can play the guitar. We should make sure to point out, I have absolutely no ability to play the real guitar. Like, I can do "It Smells Like Teen Spirit" or whatever. I can do one thing on the guitar, and that's it. So he got, and we neither one of us, at least as far as I know, to this day, have ever picked that game back
touched
up.
the
Nope.
game.
It's just like,
I've never
we
played it.
finished it. We cleared it.
Yeah,
and
we
now
just
we better start getting back to the homework.
Yeah, we had this weird competition going for a couple of weeks there because we sort of both scaled up at the same time, as I recall, because we started off just doing like the 3 notes, and then next thing you know, we're doing like all 5 buttons and crazy mode on everything, and we're both stuck on the last song, and Tony was able to squeak by.
Just luck. It was pure luck.
I couldn't
that
get it
damn
done.
Solo. It was just like thrash through the solo and hope you didn't run out of life by the end of it.
Save up the star power and tilt the headstock up. And
Tell us a little bit about Shwar.
So, gosh. So, Shwar was from Pakistan, I think, right?
I think so.
Did you were you around when he was in the picture? Or
Just one semester.
Okay, just one.
Shwar, yeah.
John hated him immediately from day
Their
one.
other roommate.
Yeah, which
Well, they were actually roommates. Like, they shared a room.
Yeah.
Oh, John. I wonder what he's doing now.
I just looked him up. He's
Crescent Beach.
Beach, yeah.
I talked to him a few months ago. I haven't been super up to date with him, but I knew about Crescent Beach, and he was at Hy-Vee, I think, before that for a while, and maybe another hotel or two in the Lakes area, but he's working still, kind of the same career path and everything. So, but John hated him immediately. Shwar, like, the thing that stands out the most to me about him was, he did his like daily routine or whatever, but he would just splash water everywhere to such a ridiculous degree that it was insane.
That was kind of weird.
And like part of his religion or whatever, you wash your face, wash your hands, wash your feet, that kind of thing. But this kid would like fill up a Dixie cup and then hold his foot over the toilet and then just like pour water over his, like that was his foot wash. He wouldn't get a basin or anything. He just splashed water all over the place, and it piled up so much on the double sink that the sink lifted up off the. Do you remember that?
About that?
Yeah, the maintenance guys had to come, and he was like germaphobe, like hardcore. If you'd even like graze his hand or something, he'd immediately go like wash his hands with boiling water, and super hairy, and I don't know. He used up all the dishes and just piled them up in his room, and I don't know. Yeah, it was unpleasant.
Didn't work out too great.
Yeah, Tony dipped after one semester and
it's
stuck
like,
John with
time
an
to
eye
head
with
back
him.
to Cedar Rapids. Got some work to do. See you guys.
Yeah. Oh dear. And then we came back again, and we switched buildings, as I recall. We like moved next door or something.
Good old Freddie Court.
Yeah. They've added a bunch of buildings out there. Have you?
Hope so. They got like 20,000 more students than they used to. So.
Really?
Well, something. I mean, it's
wow.
crazy.
Is it like 40K now? Because what was it when we were there?
It's like 26K,
Yeah.
I think, when we were there. And
It's
I
way
can't
over
remember
30.
if that included
Jeez.
grad students or not, or if that was just the undergrad.
When I was there in 2015, it was packed.
Well, they
people
kind
everywhere.
of got rid of some of the weed out class.
Speaking of,
concepts.
did any of you, the Onions doing their year in review? Did any of you catch the one?
Iowa State one, yeah.
So their top article from February was something like students forced to attend Iowa State University as the regents set the target acceptance rate to 140%.
Ouch! I haven't seen that. We need
Oh man, that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys hear about this story in Des Moines?
No.
Oh yeah. Yep.
This is a good one. We'll get into the
That's
news
their
segment.
war flag.
That's a
This is some
a
Des Moines,
hat
Iowa
that you
news.
found in Des Moines.
Yeah, this is a
Not even
KCCI.
down in
I
Dixie.
recall Des Moines being a bastion of the Confederacy.
That's right.
During the Civil War. That's right.
You know, the Mason-Dixon line goes and then
2,000
up really
miles south.
high right around Des Moines and then
Huh.
back down again.
I missed that
William
part.
Stark painted this Nazi flag and placed it on his front lawn Tuesday morning next to a lineup of Confederate and American flags he's had for a while.
One of these rebel flags has lights on it that you can see. Looks really neat at night.
It's really tasteless.
Brian Askelin is used to seeing the Confederate flags when he picks up his grandson from Morris Elementary, which
Classy, right next to the elementary school. Well, you know, I bet it brings up some good topics
Yeah.
of conversation for the teachers at
Yep.
said school, though elementary, maybe,
Yeah.
get more 4th, 5th grade talking
Tell all those
about history.
first graders about the
US
First
history.
Amendment.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
shares a fence with Stark.
When I saw the Nazi flag, I was just like, that's going a little overboard.
Askelin decided to
It's okay. Nazi bad.
Yeah,
you can say
you can
Nazi
say it,
bad.
yep.
Yeah.
post a photo to Facebook of Stark's display, gaining hundreds of comments in hours. Des Moines Public Schools released a statement that said in part, "We should all be sickened that someone would promote the hatred espoused by Confederates and Nazis within sight of the front."
Who's worse, Confederates or Nazis?
Because it's kind of, I mean, they're painting the picture like it's kind of equal right here.
I would say that the Nazis definitely, I think, killed a larger number of people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And Confederates, I mean, like if Confederates of what era? Like the Confederacy was versus the Union back in, the 1860s
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily all that, I don't know. It's one side versus the other.
Yeah. Well, there's
It's a war, it's a
Mhm.
civil war versus, I don't know. I definitely would go with Nazis are worse than Confederates.
Right.
Nazi, final answer.
Doors of an elementary school. At Morris Elementary School, where more than 60% of the students educated are children of color, students see these symbols of hate when they arrive and leave school or are simply on the playground.
Do you understand why
So what do you think the deal is with this guy?
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
I would.
He kind of forgot, I guess, that, Confederates did lose.
Yeah.
It's been a little while.
Mhm.
And you're in Iowa.
And right,
A
you
Union
are
state.
in a northern state who I believe fought for the Union.
They did. Yep.
But Ted Nugent says.
It is freedom of speech, First Amendment rights.
Yeah, I mean, I support his right to have that stuff out there if it's on his own property, but it's ridiculous nonetheless.
Right.
Question the logic, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it offends people?
Yeah, because people don't know what their history is. They've turned different things into different things. I mean, a swastika could be religious if you know what a swastika is.
Stark said he makes and sells these
I'd
flags
like to
in
hear what his rationale is behind a swastika.
I mean, it was, an ancient symbol
Yeah.
that,
Was it
that
a-
was used,
Yeah.
It's been a Native American symbol, is that right? Or, I
think it was.
can't remember.
Something like that, yeah. That the Germans borrowed from something else, or
only
But-
made.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I wouldn't expect this guy to know that, and
Mhm.
I'm making very, very broad assumptions.
Well, take a
but-
look at his camper.
Stereotypical.
He's got a truck with a kicked-in headlight here. I mean, he might know some stuff. Huh?
Yeah.
Made the Nazi flag by request, placing it on his front lawn as part of a dare.
He dared me to put it out with the rebel flags because he knew I got grief about the rebel flags.
People are assuming that you're prejudiced.
Yeah, I am not in the slightest.
Stark then set out pictures and pointed to the race of his own stepkids as proof.
You've got a lot of people out there.
God.
Well, he does have a neck tat here.
Yeah.
So, he's cool.
That regardless of your intention feel very offended by it.
Well, I'm sorry for them people, but go learn your history.
He said he hopes parents will use his paintings to teach their kids about history.
I would just like him to maybe sit down and think and honestly assess what he's trying to say to these children.
That's their war.
Well, how would it play in Wichita? Their Condons.
Probably about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little further south.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of fought the Civil War twice in Kansas,
Mm-hmm.
Bleeding
we did the
Kansas.
Bleeding Kansas and the John Brown and
Yeah.
the sacking Lawrence and all that just so that we could get the Civil War started in the rest of the country.
Right.
So.
Join the Union as a free state.
Yeah, that's some pretty awesome history. Actually, I read a pretty interesting book about that.
Whatever happened to that book? Was that one you
probably
gifted
handed it
away,
to
or
somebody,
yeah,
yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read that one.
But
I was down in Dodge City a couple summers ago, and there's some interesting.
Well, yeah, it was
Boot
Wyatt
Hill.
Earp and and Bat Masterson and all those guys out there.
Yeah.
That was a
Dalton Gang.
wild time.
Hey, we went to the Dalton Gang hideout.
In Meade.
In Meade, yeah.
We
yeah.
did. We did a big Western Kansas
Yeah.
Americana road trip.
One of I was his best man in his wedding runs the fish hatchery in Meade, Kansas.
All
No
right.
kidding.
Yeah, I went
wow.
down there to visit.
Small world. I go to Meade twice a month.
Oh, really?
I fly out there, yeah.
There's not a whole lot there, but Dalton Gang hideouts.
Yeah. Their county historical museum is pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah.
I never. I did go to the Dalton Gang, but I never visited the museum down there. So.
Is the history focus out there kind of like Wild West type theme, or is it? I mean, what?
Well, like our
what do
living
they focus
history.
on?
So, like in Des Moines, you have Living History Farm, which is a farm. In Wichita, we have Cowtown, which is more about when the cattle runs up from Texas came through Wichita. And so, yeah, there is the cowboy type Old West feel
Especially
there,
from Wichita
but
West.
Okay.
right.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, when the
the-
state was formed, it was really all up like in northeast Kansas.
The trails.
You know, Kansas
Sure.
City, Lawrence, Topeka,
Yep.
you know, that area. But then as cattle drive came in, people moved further west. And
Wichita was no longer really the West.
yeah. You know,
Okay.
little trading posts turned into cities,
Yeah.
and then when they opened up the Homestead
Railroads.
Act and farmers moved in and stuff, then that changed everything again. So.
Is it pretty arid in the western,
Yeah,
far
it's
western part of the
definitely.
state?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was the
It
case.
was amazing seeing all the, and I would assume that they're oil drills.
Yeah.
Just in the middle of nowhere. It's,
Well, that was something, and even in Wichita, there's the town called El Dorado to the east, and yes, it is El Dorado, not El Dorado, to the northeast of Wichita. That driving along, at first I kept thinking my car was, breaking down
Yeah.
or was having some sort of a problem because all of a sudden you just start smelling
Yeah.
oil. And then realize pretty quickly that, there's oil wells and
Yeah.
they're pumps, and that's what you're smelling. It's
Yeah.
not that your car all of a sudden is falling apart.
yeah, that's pretty neat. Oh man, not this again.
Yep, we need to follow up.
Oh God.
Hey, she's speaking out with Dr. Phil. Leah, do you know this story?
I do not.
Somebody fill her in.
You're the man to do it.
Okay, so this family of kind of questionable people adopted this girl who they thought was 6 years old at the time, but then they claimed that she tried to kill the mom, and they, had
Watch
some.
out for those 6-year-olds.
Yeah, they had like some evidence that she was older than alleged, and
Sure.
yeah. So, anyways,
They think she's an Eastern European spy now.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, and she's,
You start them young. You infiltrate them in elementary school.
yep, it's so weird.
It is.
Now with that wild story about an Indiana couple charged with abandoning their adopted
Oh yeah, they got sick of her or whatever, and they left for Canada, and
Just
they made it
left
to.
behind.
They went from Florida to Indiana, and they're like, okay, we'll take you this far, and they rented her an apartment and left her.
Terrible. How old was she when? They,
Well,
or,
that's
well, they,
Yeah.
that's the
okay.
matter in dispute.
Gotcha.
They seem to think she was like 35, but
Posing as a 6-year-old.
yeah.
Huh.
daughter who has a rare form of dwarfism. They say she's really an adult con artist who threatened them. And now the adopted daughter is speaking out for the first time in an exclusive interview with Dr. Phil. He's going to join us live after this report from.
So maybe before we get into this, how do you guys feel about Dr. Phil generally?
I don't exactly follow
so
or
full of it.
watch.
Yeah, need to get real. I don't know. I've always thought Dr.
It's-
Phil was kind of a
It's kind of Mari-esque.
yeah.
Just
I
entertaining.
mean, yeah, he's
I mean, I think like the first couple of years of Dr. Phil were probably like pretty real,
More medically accurate. Or,
but now it's just like Like what was the Catch Me Outside girl? She
Oh,
was on
yeah.
Dr. Phil,
How about
right?
that?
Yeah, now she's like a
Yeah.
rapper and stuff.
Yeah, it's just like, give me a break.
Dr. Phil's gone Hollywood.
Yeah.
Is he the kind of
Jump the shark.
Is he a one that can prescribe medicine, or is he? I mean, what's the? Is it psychiatrist? Is that what? Who can?
I don't know.
Psychiatrist, I think, can prescribe
Psychiatrist
medicine.
versus
Psychologist
Is
cannot.
that it's like pertain only to therapy or something? Or okay.
Paula Ferris.
I guess it comes down to whether or not you are an evil psychopath demon child that's come over here to murder everybody.
Oh, jeez.
Quite the leading question.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think at some point, pretty much every child's upbringing, their parents think they're an evil demon
Yeah.
psychopath.
No kidding.
Guess the question is, are you literally Satan?
Yeah. Or are you an innocent little kid who never did anything?
This morning, Natalia Barnett, the girl at the center of that adoption scandal, is
Now, who's this lady?
Yeah, it must be a lawyer, maybe.
Could be. Yeah.
speaking out for the first time.
There's been a lot of controversy, obviously, about your age because of the family that you were with before. How old are you?
I'm 16.
You're 16?
Yes.
Her former adoptive parents, Michael and Kristen Barnett, are now facing jail time after being charged with neglect for allegedly abandoning Natalia.
They say that you scammed them, that you lied about your age and came over here and terrorized them.
It's not true at all.
They both pleaded not guilty.
There's got to be like a lab test you can do to.
Yeah.
Test to-
Can't you
to
carbon
age
date these
date,
kids or
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Figure out how old they are.
I suppose you have to agree to it though. Not necessarily. If you're the parent in custody, I wouldn't assume. I don't know how that works. If the child has to agree to it, or
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
If you're, though, at 16, or at what age can you give consent?
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
to be 18, or, I know you can be emancipated at
Right.
a certain age. So at that point, can you
Mm-hmm.
give your own medical consent for DNA testing
Right.
or whatnot?
And then you get the classic lawyer answer of, well, it depends on the jurisdiction, I suppose. But yeah.
Well, it says, I mean, if this girl is not going to do it, then it says a lot, right? there,
Yeah,
I
right.
guess.
It's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna assume
And say
you're
they believed
not
she
16.
was 6
Yep.
years old when they adopted her in 2010, but soon after, they began questioning Natalia's age.
The Marion County Superior Court ruled that her birth year would be changed from 2003 to 1989, effectively changing her from 8 to 22 years old.
Michael Barnett.
Stretch.
Big of a
Yeah.
jump.
Yeah, it's not like 5 years off.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fairly substantial. And the other weird thing is she's from 6 years old, right from the Ukraine, but she had like zero accent at all
Yeah.
when she spoke English. So
Well, I
was
mean,
a-
if you're young enough when you come over, you probably would pick it up
Mhm.
pretty quickly. But if there's videos of her at age 6 without any accent,
yeah.
Recently told us Natalia was trying to harm them.
Natalia would do things like place clear thumbtacks on the stairs face up so that when we would walk up the stairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks to pain and injure ourselves.
But
watching a
Natalia,
little too much Home Alone.
Yeah, right.
who suffers from a rare form of dwarfism, is now sharing her side of the story with Dr. Phil.
Why did they want to get rid of you so badly?
I don't know. I just know that a lot of stuff happened and Christine started questioning my age.
Natalia, who spoke with her new adoptive parents by her side, maintains
Oh, new adopted parents. Okay. That's the plot
So
thickens.
not the lawyer
That was
holding the
fast.
hand.
Yeah.
The adoption process is not that quick.
Yeah, they must have. I suppose she was able to get some sort of a termination of the other one's parental rights on the basis of abandonment, I would assume, and then it was open season to get adopted by somebody else. So brokered the deal. That's a pretty quick turnaround, though.
that she never lied about her age.
They claim that they did bone scans and all that. I don't remember going through a bone scan. I remember going through a bone scan in Michigan.
And the bone scan in Michigan said she was 14.
I even have paperwork saying that.
And says
But you
she
don't
never tried.
remember. I don't know.
That yeah, she said I don't remember a bone
Maybe
scan
she means
except
more
for
like
the bone.
before,
Okay.
previously. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tried to harm the Barnetts.
Did you ever stand at the foot of their bed, around their bed, in their room, watch them sleep with a knife in your hand?
No. Never.
Did you ever want to stab them?
No.
For Good Morning America,
Yes.
Paula Ferris.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, right. What
What
are
do
you
you-
gonna say?
Self-incriminate.
Yeah, what the
Mhm.
hell are you gonna say?
They
That
didn't
makes
ask
no
about the
sense.
thumbtacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thumbtack thing could be, if it was an isolated incident, I suppose you could chalk that up to just screwing around or
Yeah,
something.
just being a
but-
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, because the story's only a month or two old, I think, at this juncture. So hopefully there'll be more developments.
I guess you can follow along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ABC
Keep you
News,
updated
New
here on
York.
podcast.
Thanks, Paul, for that. We're joined now by Dr. Phil McGraw. Boy, Phil.
Ugh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Not in the mood for Dr. Phil. Yeah.
Are you doing the crossword puzzle
Yeah,
here as you're live on?
I specifically brought the Des Moines Sunday Register for my appearance tonight. so-
Yeah, how are you
Tony
coming
is,
on
you know,
that thing?
35
I'm
going
about
on
50%
92.
done with the New York Times Sunday, but I will point out that one of the answers is Geezer.
Ooh.
Yeah, and another one is Weezer.
Ooh.
Nice.
So, anyways, yeah, making progress.
Good
Doing
deal.
Are you using a particular technique today? Are you doing your spiral?
No, I don't do that on the Sunday ones. On the easy ones, I like to go around the perimeter first, do a full lap, and then the next row in, the next row in, and spiral into the middle. But
You got it down to a science.
you can only do that on an easy one.
So yeah, we probably need to set the record straight. I misread your comment the other day when you were watching, when you said, "I just solved another one" or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And I read it as like, "Are you guys?" I don't know. I can't remember what I said, but it didn't make any sense.
Right. I don't-
My interpretation of it.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah. So, apologies, Tony, for getting it
Apology
wrong. But this
accepted.
is how many of these have you solved? The Sunday crossword, like you get them every week, or?
Well, I just started. I just kind of graduated to the New York Times Sunday about 3 months ago.
The failing New York Times.
Yeah.
What? Well, I thought
And,
it was the New York Times that comes in the Wichita Eagle
Yeah.
each Sunday.
Right.
Ratings are way down.
Yeah.
So, I then they publish two crosswords in the Sunday
Right,
paper.
right.
The New York Times and then
Mhm.
the easier
Oh,
one.
okay. Because I was going to say, you've been doing
So I've been
crossword
doing the
puzzles
easier
on
one
Sundays
for
for
years.
more than, yeah.
But, so I graduated the New York Times about 3 months ago. I've solved 4 or 5 of them probably.
Well, it's a good habit to get into. My Grandma
me up on my
Rosendahl,
vocab,
yeah,
you
she
know.
did them forever, and she lived to be almost 106. So,
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
She's
There
a
you
great
go.
lady.
Yep.
I miss her.
Mm-hmm. She was something else. She had a book with.
I mean, when I met her, she was young. You know, she was only like 92.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, she was. I think 75 when I was born.
Holy cow!
I guess. Yeah. So maybe older than that even. Yeah, pretty incredible longevity. Born in the Taft administration, I think. Almost the Teddy Roosevelt.
Jeez.
If she'd been born a little bit earlier. But yeah, it was something else.
Well,
Yeah, had enough, Kyle, or do you want to do another video? I think
doesn't matter. I don't care.
we can do one on anti-vaxxers in Texas.
I don't. Oh God.
This is a good
All
one.
right, this is my last one. Then. Going out on this.
Anti-vaxxers in Texas. I think vaxxers has got 2 X's, I think.
Yeah,
right?
was it Sorrow, Texas?
I don't know. See if I can. Yeah, here we go. This is the one I was thinking of.
oh,
It's a couple years old, so.
Oh, Vice is this?
Yeah, this is a Vice video, so I'll need to chop her up here a little bit, probably to avoid getting a copyright strike. But
So just, I mean, what was the title again? They would rather have liberty than safety.
Yes.
So in general, besides the fact that of if it wasn't for the whole herd mentality, herd immunity, like in general, I feel that same way about anti-vaxxers. Like, this is a self-correcting problem. You know?
Yeah.
As long as the population of the anti-vaxxers doesn't grow large enough that the entire population's at risk.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still have kids
Still have a
with
chance.
repressed immune systems.
Well, I'm thinking about my kid. Like, you don't know. They don't have a tattoo that says I'm an anti-vaxxer.
But that's what I mean. Where that's where my theory falls apart. Obviously, but if it was only the people who weren't getting vaccinated that were at risk, I'd say good for them. Go for it.
Go enjoy the mumps, measles.
The other side of it is you just propose legislation that essentially makes you culpable for if
you can
choose
prove
to
that
not get vaccinated
you
and
spread
you
a
transmit a
disease.
disease to a 1-year-old baby who can't be vaccinated. Now you're responsible for that. So.
Yeah, create some sort of a civil liability or something. Yeah,
I mean, be considered manslaughter or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe even a criminal penalty. I wonder, that'd be an interesting lawsuit from a wrongful death standpoint. Like, do you owe a duty of care to a 1-year-old baby or something? Use that as an example, who can't get vaccinated. Do you have a duty to vaccinate yourself? Then, I suppose.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Although you do wonder if they would be able to backtrace it to who transmitted. Like, if you had 5, unvaccinated people, how can you tell which one or which family?
There was a tuberculosis case in Hampton, Iowa, just this week.
Heard about that. Yep.
How do people get TB anymore?
Well, what are there a few cases every year, or is that like the first one in 70 years? Would be what I would want to know.
First one that I've heard of close, anyway. I mean,
well, I think it's it is a global
disease,
world, or just as far as people travel or fly in from other locations and spread it, versus just a phantom pop up. You have carriers who aren't symptomatic themselves, who may not know.
Yep.
Was the famous woman in New York City that they ended up basically sequestering or exiling to an island because she was spreading TB around. This is 1880s.
Sure.
I read something about the plague coming back too.
Yeah, I think that's in Southern California.
Well,
yeah.
Stay there.
And actually, there was a bit of I think I read there was a bit of a plague outbreak in China this year too.
Ooh.
Lots of
20 plus cases or something.
Yeah.
It's from eating raw animals. So.
Yeah, all sorts of scary stuff, man.
When the whole Ebola thing was out and about, I was right around when my dad had a stroke, and we were going to Omaha the night of his stroke, and we went to the wrong hospital. It was on lockdown, so we're like, what the hell's going on? They thought they had an Ebola case at that hospital, so they wouldn't let anybody in. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't know much about Ebola.
I know that there's currently a new outbreak that they're really struggling with, and I can't remember which country it's in.
West Africa again?
Right, probably, and just that they're having issues because local, I don't know if it's militia or groups are attacking the doctors or got in and infiltrated, and they ended up having to evacuate doctors so that they're now 2 to 3 hours away and trying to take them in by helicopter because it's not safe, and trying to get United Nations forces to try to protect the medical staff to be able to do it, because they're afraid that if it gets much bigger, it'll be harder to contain or to stop.
What's the rationale again behind why they don't want the vaccine? It's not religious, is it?
Well, I think in some, and I don't know specifically, and this is all bad memory of an NPR story I listened to, I think, during our nice drive the other day. But I think partly in some communities there's a fear maybe of Western medicine, or just, thinking that maybe it's the doctors that are bringing the disease into the community versus the disease is already there and the doctors are just trying to save, especially when it's such a high percentage of fatal type illness such as this. But I think also one group thought that, well, it might have been this one group was trying to stir up kind of opposition to the government, or they thought by having these attacks it would destabilize a certain political party or something along those lines. That I don't even know if it was tied into the actual medical concerns as much as just causing disruption and
I ought to try to get, Sally Lose does. Are you friends with her on Facebook, Jim?
I am, yeah.
She's been in Africa
all over the
working
place.
Ebola in the last 5 years too. I know.
Yeah.
Some of her trips. I think she's with like Doctors Without Borders, some UN agency that does relief doctor work. So.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. She's quite the globetrotter.
Yeah,
it's all over the place.
I think she spends like whatever the. I think about the only time she's in the U.S. is like when she has to renew her passport or
I
whatever.
think so.
Like, minimum required number of days per decade
Still
you
be a
have to be in
citizen.
the U.S.
Yeah, I saw her. I bumped into her at the gas station like 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and chatted with her for a little bit, and Bob was there. I hadn't seen Bob forever either.
I think I saw him in the grocery store yesterday. Actually, I didn't chat with him though.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty
Have to ask
wild.
him what Zach's been up to lately. So.
Yeah, Zach's, I think, working at a restaurant in
Minneapolis. Last I heard too. Yeah,
he's quite the Renaissance man too. He went,
no kidding.
Crazy Zach, and then he was on a conservative talk radio show in like South Dakota somewhere.
And South Dakota, yeah.
Then he's like a chef in Minneapolis at
He was working at the.
Is it Bachelor Farmer?
Yeah, he was working at the Bachelor Farmer in Minneapolis, but he moved to a different restaurant, is what I heard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when my father-in-law found out that I had a high school friend who was cooking at the Bachelor Farmer, he's like, "Do you think you could get us in?"
You can get us reservations
It's
without
like
a year-long
6-month wait or
Yep.
something.
Jeez.
Yeah. The place in the Twin Cities. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's get to vaccine.
Baseless claims about a link between vaccines and developmental disorders have fueled the so-called anti-vaxxer movement for years now. But in Texas, the anti-vaxxers are motivated by something else: an unconditional commitment to personal freedom.
Liberty.
Yeah, liberty or probably death, especially in this case.
Liberty.
Even at the expense of public health.
The parent decides whether their children get vaccinated or not. That is it in a nutshell.
In 2003,
I hear a comment.
Nope.
Just comment.
About 2,000 kids in Texas held exemptions, allowing them to opt out.
So yeah, I guess this is maybe the focus on this is in public schools, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, what do we know the rule for this? Is it something like the general rule is you get a vaccine in order to attend public school, I think.
Yeah.
However, you're allowed certain exemptions for religious
beliefs
basis, and then it depends on the state, maybe. Like
perhaps I don't have any school-aged kids, so
yeah.
Just thinking back to when I was, going to school, and you did have your series of vaccines that I think you had to then provide proof to either the school nurse or something, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's also Minnesota, so I don't know what it's like in Texas.
Yeah.
Out of vaccinations for non-medical reasons. Today, that number has risen to almost 45,000.
So that's
more
quite
than
a spike.
It is a spike. I don't know if that correlates at all with the misbelief or concepts that or what that era was with the correlation between autism and vaccines. If that was during that time period that there was a spike, right?
Yeah, Spurge gave us a kind of a blow by blow on that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like what the timeline?
Yeah,
because
he had all sorts of information. He said it was like one kind of rogue study or something that wasn't very well
but like
founded.
what year was that?
Yeah.
Was that in that time period
that
I
was
started
late
that
90s
spike?
that paper
I
came
would
out,
assume
think.
so. Yeah.
Okay, so that's before, because I guess the far left axis of that chart was 03, 04.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been pre that paper. I mean, post paper.
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
Like it came out in the middle of that timeline.
Mm-hmm. Took a couple years maybe for it to catch on, and then didn't some celebrity people get a hold of it, and then they used it as sort of the basis for their...
like Jenny McCartney.
Yep.
Yeah. 20 vaccine-related...
Yeah, Rob Schneider is a big anti-vaxxer, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Bills were introduced in the recently completed 85th Texas legislative session. And while some of those bills promote vaccinations, others definitely don't. 31-year-old Republican State Representative Briscoe Cain is
31.
Yeah, he's a young
the
guy.
member of the state's Freedom Caucus.
Why is the debate about vaccines so strong in Texas? Is this something specific to Texas?
It's kind of something in our history, in our DNA, that we desire to be free from government intervention in our lives.
From your perspective, what's the vaccine choice debate about?
The parent should have the ability to decide whether or not their child takes medicine or receives an injection. It's about liberty.
So it's not about...
So, in the context of a public school, I think it's fine for the public school to require vaccine to participate, and I think that it should be fine for the public school to turn somebody away if they haven't, and if their reason for not getting it is outside the bounds of the legally accepted reason. Yeah.
Is there the argument that you have is there a constitutional right to an education?
No, God, no.
Like it begs
No,
that.
yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it begs that argument that is public school a right or is it a privilege?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to study that. I remember from con law that there was a parent had a right to educate their child how they wanted to. I remember that was like within a liberty interest or something.
Right. I just remember that we were one of the first nations that had a public school that you didn't necessarily have to. It wasn't just a private, only the wealthy or those who could afford to pay. But I couldn't remember quite how that worked.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, you could potentially, if there is such a thing as a constitutional right to an education, then you'd have a liberty interest
versus
versus
if
your
you
right
had
to,
for public, and especially since I know that there's you have to attend school up until you're a certain age. Well, if you have to attend school and if you're unvaccinated and you can't attend a public school, where does that leave you? But I guess there's always that homeschool whatnot until you reach a certain age to drop out or to do whatnot.
Well, and I suppose a private school can do whatever.
Right,
they
they don't have to
as well,
to allow or to mandate.
Yep.
But just throwing that out there, just out of curiosity's sake, I agree with you guys as far as if that's really a concern that you make and though the question is that by state, or as far as United States, or is that something that should be a federal, like all public schools shall require XYZ vaccines? I think it starts getting into the who governs that or has the say, or is it a school by school basis? Is it the local school board president who and superintendent that come up with those sorts of policies based on their individual or localized voter beliefs?
It's an interesting subject matter to me. I mean, personally, I guess, but I know other people
About
don't find
vaccines
it as
themselves or
interesting
their
as I
safety?
do.
For some it is. For me personally, it has nothing to do with the science or debating the science of vaccines.
Do you get vaccines yourself?
I do.
Do you have children?
I do. And they've been vaccinated.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up getting the flu shot every year. It's purely, but it was at my own choosing.
Some vaccines are only like 97% protective. So hypothetically, if your child were to get the measles from a child who wasn't vaccinated, how would you feel about that?
It's troubling that my child got the measles.
I mean, there's an outbreak right now in Minnesota.
I believe that personal liberty, or my personal liberty, stops at the person of another.
What about when a person's personal liberty infringes on somebody else's safety?
I believe that in the hierarchy of rights, that liberty is higher than safety and security.
So what do you have? What's your problem with that then? I mean,
well, if you're not, how can you be liberated if you're unsafe? Or
there's lots of Supreme Court decisions, Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you start to infringe on other people's rights, that's where your personal rights end, right? So the classic yelling fire in a movie theater, right, or whatever, where now you've you're using your First Amendment right to violate other people's rights, and so that's it doesn't work there. I mean, I think there's cases in almost all kinds of cases where you can do whatever the hell you want to as long as it doesn't bother other people.
Yep.
So
yeah,
vaccinate if you like, but once you start endangering other people, now you have a liability at the very least.
Yeah. It's the way the rights can, under certain factual situations, can sort of interlace and start to run afoul of one another. It's I mean, for a con law, somebody that's interested in constitutional law scholarship, it's a neat place to study the different arguments one way or another and
see which one maybe supersedes the other hierarchy, like this.
Because it is a gray area, I suppose. If you you take the liberty versus the safety situation, because how do you balance the two, and say one is more important than the other?
Well,
one?
and that's very much a personal thought. Maybe in this case, this lawmaker, he prefers liberty over safety, but what's to say that another person, they have a different preference on ranking of.
The other thing this subject brings up is the rights of minors, and you have parents making major safety decisions for their children. And I mean, this is why this is the whole argument for a seatbelt law, right?
Yeah.
Which in a lot of ways is a bullshit law, I think, but it was all like, well, we have to save the children, and the only way to force people to buckle their kids in their car is to make it state law.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what that boils down to.
Versus,
Once again, my feeling on a seatbelt law is self-correcting problem. You don't want to wear your seatbelt, you die in a crash. Then you don't have to worry about that person anymore. Crude, I know, whatever evil thought, but you're not putting anybody else at risk by not wearing your own seatbelt.
Well, unless you become a flying projectile into another
very
person.
low odds on that. You get into a car crash with somebody else and you're not wearing your seatbelt, it's only going to kill you. So, but now I think I saw something in the news last year about like if some kid, as soon as they turned 18, sued their parents because they had not vaccinated them as a minor.
I kind of remember that story a little bit.
And the argument was like, you put my life at risk, literally. Yep. And I couldn't do anything about it because I was a minor. And that was I don't know how that case ended up, but it's an interesting argument. And I bet they have a real quiet dinner table about this.
I was going to say at Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's got to be a little awkward.
Yep. Yeah, it's good stuff. I know I've bloviated about this on previous episodes, but on the vaccine subject, there was an old Supreme Court case that actually upheld a state's position to mandate a vaccine for all of the citizenry in regard to smallpox. And it was the situation was a pandemic.
Sure.
Basically. So I think there's precedent out there for a mandatory government ordered vaccine.
In cases of emergency or declared martial law or
I mean, I guess I'd have to read it again, I suppose, to make more of a study of it to give you all the nuance to the rule, but the basics are, essentially that if it gets so extreme where there isn't going to be a government anymore,
right?
The government's interest in pretty compelling in making
either anarchy
everybody
or
making everybody get a vaccine. And then the argument would be, well, the liberty interest is so tiny here because it's just a prick in the arm, and then you're fine.
Although the smallpox vaccine, at least up to a certain point, was causing, it wasn't like a normal vaccine where it doesn't leave any sort of remnants, but like in the 1940s or whatnot, it did leave, a decent size kind of welt or a big scar.
Yeah. Yep.
That said, I'm perfectly happy that we don't have to deal with smallpox.
Modern
age like we used to.
Well, and maybe that's an element to this discussion that we're able to come at it sort of from the quote unquote privilege of living in a relatively disease free society by and large. I mean, we're not dealing with
or like polio, or
Plague
you
or
think
polio
about things
or, yeah,
that were
some of
so
that's-
commonplace and so
Mhm.
debilitating.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it's pretty easy to yak kind of like academically about, well,
Mhm.
liberty interests that and so on and so forth. But if you've got loved ones that are dying and that kind of thing, I mean, it could easily change your perspective on
Absolutely.
on the matter. So, yep. Kyle just loves this subject, don't you?
I'm so sick of being
Glad.
mad every time I do a podcast.
Going home angry.
Yeah.
Think, why do I do this in my free
Oh.
I'm
time?
glad I live on the other side of town.
Oh, jeez.
Decompress.
Come
At
on.
least we're not talking about education. If we are, I'm leaving. So
I
I'm
was
just gonna tell you.
I don't know why it came up, but while I was doing my crossword, I thought of. Has anybody heard if D's Nuts from Grettinger is
Oh.
put in for the next presidential race?
Yeah, I'm sure
Speaking
somebody
of, Why
has.
wasn't he at the Democratic convention?
Yeah.
Or the Democratic.
Probably because he didn't meet the you know the fundraising restrictions.
Well, it was based
or
on poll
requirements
numbers.
for
I mean,
his
what did
last
he
one.
hit? He hit like 7% in North Carolina.
Something
poll.
like that,
The
yeah.
thing
Awesome.
blew up, right, in
It's impressive.
2016. And
I know, you-
that was
you
great.
loved
I
it.
loved that. I was like, I don't
telling
know that
everyone
kid,
about
but
it.
I know
that
where he's
place,
from.
yeah.
So,
Wallingford, Iowa.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
Wallingford, yeah.
And yeah, he
And
d-
his civics teacher was proud.
Oh, yeah.
Someone paid attention. In
He actually
American government.
inspired a change in federal law, in federal election law.
Oh, is
you
that
have
right?
to use your real name now.
Okay.
Yes. you
Not
can-
everyone can say that.
That was a loophole that he worked through. Is he? But they changed that rule after the 2016 election that you cannot file under a pseudonym.
I'm surprised that wasn't a rule prior
That's what
to
everybody
that.
else said,
Yeah.
but it was not a requirement.
Yeah,
And the other interesting thing that thing brought, of course, Constitution requires that you have to be like 45, I think, to be president.
But not necessarily to
Something,
run.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right?
but that's
That
not
was
a
it.
requirement to get on the
Ballot.
on the
So,
ballot.
wow.
So
Huh.
you can. So I mean, because he was like 17 or whatever, you know. So. Yeah, just Northwest Iowa representing again.
Oh, D's Nuts.
Was that kid did he go to Grettinger or Esterville or?
I think he went to Grettinger.
Okay.
Don't
Darn
remember
it.
having him in any of your classes.
No,
Darn it, we can't claim him.
I never had to grade a D's Nuts paper. so.
Do kids ever put any weird stuff on their homework anymore? Or?
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some characters in there, but
Yeah.
for the most part, they do a nice job.
That's good. Yeah, you probably don't have to grade a whole lot of like on paper stuff anymore, do you?
Yeah, I still like, especially
do
for
ya?
physics. I mean, there's
Yep.
still a lot of
Free body diagrams.
free
or
body
whatnot,
diagrams,
yeah.
force diagrams, motion diagrams. Yeah, we're just getting done with that crap now. Get into something fun.
Hey now.
I know.
As
I know.
someone who does free body diagrams
Yeah.
for a
I
living,
should-
I have
yeah.
to interject that.
I'll have to tell my kids because when am I ever going to use this? Well,
yeah.
I use statics
Yeah.
all the time, engineering, mechanics of materials.
Yeah.
A lot more my basic entry level engineering
Yeah.
coursework, a lot more than my aero structures classes.
We're going to.
So more and more calculus based,
Yeah.
you know, types of statics versus algebra based. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure what type of AP physics or whatnot.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
calc
all
based, but
algebra
other
right
type
now.
is algebra.
Yeah.
But equations of motion, whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, it's all fun. We're getting done with that. We're moving on to, let's see, what is next? Gravity and energy, I think. So.
Very good.
Yep. The old coefficient of static and kinetic friction.
Nice subject
Hey,
matter.
there you go.
Yeah, perfect time of year for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
icy
Ice,
sidewalks.
Yep.
Yeah.
How much acceleration?
Everything's going fine
Oh,
until
God.
it breaks loose, and then all.
You assume friction or
Yeah.
no friction.
Yeah, they have. I love that physics class. There's only like 7 kids in it, and they're
We
all.
can have some really cool experiments. I
Yeah.
remember one like physics lab where there's a weight that was tied onto a string, so this like pendulum that you
Yep.
slice with the razor, and you had to
Oh,
predict
sweet.
where the
Yep,
the
little
little weight was gonna
projectile
land,
motion,
and
yeah.
using some old like carbon copy paper that you had to set up where you expected it to
Yeah.
to land.
I love the
based on
classic
that.
centripetal acceleration where you hold the weights out, you spin
There
in the
you go.
chair, and
Yep,
you get
yep.
faster. Yeah.
Hold it in.
Yep. They had a blast with that the other day. We did
Mhm.
that. Oh, physics.
Good material.
I never actually took physics in high school, but
Really?
it just never worked in my schedule.
Well, is that because you did it at overachiever, did it at Iowa Lakes while you're still a high school student?
No,
Like
no, I
post-secondary
just never
education?
took it.
I think this is the first time since 2012 or 13 that it's this semester it's been taught face to face. Otherwise, kids have been able to take it online.
Gotcha.
Which probably was
Yeah,
lesser than face to face. I'm sure.
Well, and I suppose too, like I came from a larger school, so maybe just more students were qualified or interested, had the interest in taking a physics class. But that's great that you have.
They needed it.
There's some interest.
Yeah, we took out. We removed advanced chem, so I still teach Chem 1 and Chem 2, but we took out advanced chem and then added a physics.
So yeah, so I guess if anyone wonders, well, who actually uses free body diagrams?
Yeah, I'll tell
you
'em.
can say aircraft structures engineers use free body diagrams.
I will tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you'll
basic statics has so many applications.
Yeah.
You know, if
Well,
you actually like if you're trying to fix anything
or building a
if
bridge, or
you're trying like
civil
not to
engineering.
die in any given situation, a little bit of statics goes a long way.
Yeah.
Or for example, we were watching Home Alone, and he was climbing up his brother's, shelf. Not that 8-year-old Kevin McAllister would have figured out his weight and
Calculate the bending
supports
moment
of calculate the bending moment of the shelf before it collapsed on him. But anyways,
Good
geek
deal.
moment.
Well, hopefully you'll inspire a whole bunch of new engineers.
Now, I'm
your
just
class,
glad.
Kyle.
It brings me back to when I did the whole physics thing in college, and then I was kicking myself because I never had it in high school, and that's kind of why I was pushing so hard for it to teach it and get kids in it. But I don't know. It's fun to see them try and think a little differently, because it's a whole. It's not algebra. It's not calculus. It's not
Well, it's
here's
application
application, yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
that's why calculus was invented, was to better explain the universe and the applications like physics, astronomy, whatnot.
Yeah, that's a
Sir
great
Isaac
time.
Newton invented calculus on his Christmas break from Cambridge on his
Yeah.
sophomore year. It's like, I just need a new kind of math to explain what's going on.
Must have been a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, now we
Whip
got
that one
kids
up.
vaping in the bathroom.
My, how times have changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure maybe Newton probably vaped a little bit too.
Yeah, right. Oh, if he had one, he maybe
Probably
would
a
have vaped.
Different kind, maybe.
Yeah. Had enough, Kyle?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I'm done.
We'll cut you
Bedtime.
off.
All right.
Good episode. Thank you for being on, Tony and Leah.
Yeah, glad
Happy
to be
to
here.
be here.
Very good.